What if I told you that there's a path that promises not just success, but wealth, blessings, and everything you've ever wanted? A path that combines faith with fortune. It might sound like a dream, a hope too good to be true, but this idea has captured the attention of millions. This is the heart of the prosperity gospel, a doctrine that suggests your financial breakthrough, your personal success, and even your blessings in life could be just a prayer away. For many, the prosperity gospel is more than a set of beliefs, it's an allure, an irresistible promise of a better life. It's a doctrine that teaches that faith, when properly applied, can unlock an abundant life, overflowing with wealth, health, and happiness. Preachers of this gospel often focus on the idea that God's will for his followers is to prosper and be in good health, as outlined in verses like 3 John 1:2. Beloved, I wish above all things that thou mayest prosper and be in health, even as thy soul prospereth. They tell us that if we have enough faith and sow the right seeds, often in the form of monetary donations to the church, prosperity will inevitably follow. But is this really about faith? Or is it something more? The teachings of the prosperity gospel have sparked widespread debate, leaving many to wonder whether the doctrine is truly biblical, or if it's just a way to manipulate followers into giving money for the promise of personal gain. On one hand, it's easy to see the appeal. Who wouldn't want to believe that their dreams can be fulfilled if they just trust in God? Who wouldn't want to think that God rewards faithfulness with tangible blessings? But on the other hand, there's a dark side to this teaching that many are uncomfortable with. For starters, the prosperity gospel places a heavy emphasis on material wealth as evidence of God's favor. But what about those who live in poverty? What about the faithful who struggle with illness or hardship despite their best efforts? According to the prosperity gospel, the problem is often a lack of faith or improper actions. The implication is clear: if you're not prospering, it's because you haven't done enough. It's a message that can leave people feeling guilty or inadequate, questioning their own faith when things don't go as promised. Critics argue that this doctrine distorts the true message of the gospel, turning it into a transaction, a way to buy God's blessings. Instead of a focus on spiritual growth, selflessness, and compassion, it can shift attention to materialistic pursuits and selfish desires. It reduces God to a sort of divine ATM, where prayers and tithes are exchanged for worldly rewards. This has led to concerns about the exploitation of vulnerable individuals who may be manipulated into giving more than they can afford in the hope of receiving divine financial returns. However, despite the controversies, there are millions who believe in the prosperity gospel, finding hope and motivation in its teachings. For them, it represents a path to fulfillment, a guide to living a successful life that aligns with their faith. For them, it's not just about wealth, it's about claiming God's promises for a life of abundance. As we dive deeper into the prosperity gospel, it's essential to explore both the promises it makes and the criticisms it faces. Is it a true expression of biblical faith, or has it become a distortion of the gospel for personal gain? And perhaps most importantly, what does the future hold for this controversial doctrine? Stay tuned, because the answers may not be as clear as we'd like to think. The prosperity gospel isn't just a recent phenomenon or a new movement, its roots go much deeper, stretching back several decades. In fact, some trace the origins of this doctrine to the mid-20th century, when a wave of charismatic televangelists began to rise to prominence. Among the most influential figures were Oral Roberts and Kenneth Hagin, who played pivotal roles in shaping what we now know as the prosperity gospel. These preachers preached a message that resonated with millions of believers: God wants to bless his followers with wealth, health, and success. Their teachings emphasized that, with the right kind of faith, God would reward individuals with tangible, material blessings. At its core, the prosperity gospel carried a simple but powerful message: if you have faith and give, you will receive. The concept of sowing seeds, both metaphorically and literally, became a central theme. Televangelists encouraged their audiences to sow financial seeds into the ministry, promising that the more they gave, the greater the rewards they would reap. The idea was that God's blessings, in the form of wealth, good health, and success, would follow those who demonstrated unwavering faith and generosity. It was an enticing message, one that promised a direct link between spiritual devotion and personal prosperity. But as this movement grew in influence, so did questions surrounding its biblical foundation. What is the true biblical basis for the prosperity gospel? Does the Bible really teach that wealth, success, and health are signs of God's favor, or has the message been distorted? These are crucial questions that need to be addressed, as they lie at the heart of the controversy surrounding the prosperity gospel. Supporters of the prosperity gospel often point to passages in the Bible that emphasize God's desire to bless his followers. Verses such as Malachi 3:10, which talks about bringing the whole tithe into the storehouse so that God can pour out blessings, are frequently cited. They argue that the Bible supports the idea of prosperity as a sign of God's favor. Another commonly referenced scripture is John 10:10, where Jesus says, "I have come that they may have life, and have it to the full," interpreted by some as an endorsement of abundant material blessings. However, critics of the prosperity gospel argue that this selective interpretation of scripture overlooks the deeper, more complex messages of the Bible. The teachings of Jesus, for example, often emphasize humility, sacrifice, and the importance of spiritual wealth over material gain. In passages such as Matthew 6:19-21, Jesus warns against storing up treasures on earth, instead urging believers to seek treasures in heaven. Similarly, in the Beatitudes, Jesus blesses the poor in spirit and those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, not those who seek wealth and material prosperity. Many theologians argue that the prosperity gospel distorts the true message of the gospel, reducing it to a transactional relationship between faith and wealth. Instead of focusing on spiritual growth, love, and service to others, it turns faith into a formula for personal gain. The Bible, they argue, teaches that wealth and success are not guarantees of God's favor, and that the true measure of a believer's life is not the abundance of their possessions, but their faith, love, and devotion to God and others. As we examine the roots of the prosperity gospel, it's essential to understand the historical and cultural context that gave rise to this movement. The post-World War II era saw significant changes in society, including the rise of television and mass media, which allowed preachers to reach millions of viewers. The economic boom of the time also contributed to the widespread appeal of the idea that faith could lead to material success. In this context, the prosperity gospel provided a message of hope and empowerment, offering a vision of a better life that resonated with people seeking answers in a rapidly changing world. But the question remains, is the prosperity gospel truly grounded in biblical teachings, or is it a product of human desire for wealth and success? As we continue to explore this controversial doctrine, we must carefully consider the teachings of the Bible and the implications of embracing a theology that promises material blessings as a reward for faith. Is the promise of wealth and success truly the heart of the gospel, or has it become a distortion of the deeper, more transformative message that Jesus came to bring? The prosperity gospel offers a tantalizing promise: if you plant the right seeds, usually in the form of financial donations, you will reap a harvest of blessings. These blessings come in many forms: wealth, health, happiness, success, all the things most people desire in life. The formula is simple, almost too simple: faith plus giving equals blessings. It's a message that has captured the hearts and minds of millions, creating a movement that thrives on the belief that prosperity is not just possible but guaranteed for those who follow the right path. On the surface, this seems like an incredibly attractive idea. After all, who doesn't want to experience the kind of success that comes with the promise of financial freedom, perfect health, and an abundance of joy in life? Who wouldn't want to believe that all it takes is a bit of faith and a generous heart to unlock God's blessings? It's easy to see why the prosperity gospel has gained such a strong following. It offers a sense of hope and empowerment, suggesting that you have the ability to change your life simply by believing in the right principles and acting on them. But here's the catch: while the message is simple, the reality behind it is far more complicated. Some proponents of the prosperity gospel argue that it takes more than just faith to achieve prosperity. It requires having the right kind of faith, the kind of faith that is coupled with a deep belief in the power of positive confession, an unwavering commitment to giving, and the confidence that God will reward your actions in the form of material blessings. Essentially, it's not just about having faith in God's ability to bless you, it's about having the right kind of faith that activates those blessings. This emphasis on the right kind of faith is central to the prosperity gospel. It's not enough to simply trust in God's promises. You have to have an unshakable belief that your faith will lead to tangible results. This can create a sense of pressure, as followers may feel that if their lives aren't filled with material success, it's because their faith isn't strong enough or their belief isn't pure enough. In some cases, this can lead to feelings of guilt or inadequacy, as people question their own faith when the blessings they were promised don't seem to materialize. Moreover, the prosperity gospel often places a significant emphasis on financial giving. The idea is that the more you give, the more you will receive in return. This has led to the practice of seed faith, where followers are encouraged to donate money to ministries in the belief that their donation will result in a financial or spiritual reward. In many cases, preachers teach that the act of giving is a direct investment in your future prosperity, with a promise that God will multiply your seed and return it to you many times over. The focus on giving, however, can sometimes feel more like a transaction than an act of spiritual devotion, as if the blessings you receive are contingent upon how much you're willing to give. The message of the prosperity gospel is undeniably appealing, offering a clear and straightforward path to success. But it also raises important questions about the true nature of faith and the role of material blessings in the Christian life. Does the Bible truly teach that wealth and success are the ultimate signs of God's favor, or is there a deeper, more profound message to be found in the teachings of Jesus? While the prosperity gospel promises abundance, it's essential to ask whether this abundance is truly what God desires for his followers, or whether it has become a distortion of the gospel's core message. As we continue to explore the allure and controversy of the prosperity gospel, it's important to recognize that the promise of wealth and success is not the ultimate goal of the Christian faith. The Bible teaches that true prosperity is found in spiritual growth, selflessness, and a relationship with God. Material wealth and success, while not inherently wrong, should not be the focus of a believer's life. The prosperity gospel, for all its promises, may offer a path to earthly success, but at what cost to our deeper spiritual well-being? Ultimately, the prosperity gospel raises crucial questions about the nature of faith and what it means to live a blessed life. Is it about receiving material blessings, or is it about cultivating a life of generosity, love, and devotion to God? While the formula of faith and giving may seem simple, the true journey toward prosperity, one that is rooted in spiritual depth and genuine connection with God, is far more complex and meaningful than just wealth and success. The prosperity gospel has gained significant attention in recent years, with its promises of wealth, health, and success often leading people to believe that their faith can unlock divine rewards in the form of material blessings. However, despite the allure of a life filled with financial abundance and personal triumphs, there is a darker side to this theology that many critics are now calling into question. Critics argue that the prosperity gospel distorts the core message of Christianity, transforming faith into a mere transaction. Instead of teaching followers about the true nature of spirituality and sacrifice, it presents belief as an investment, where the more faith you invest, the greater the rewards you will receive in return. In this belief system, individuals are encouraged to see their relationship with God as a business deal, with the ultimate goal being the accumulation of wealth and success, rather than spiritual growth or enlightenment. This approach can lead to dangerous consequences, especially when followers do not experience the promised prosperity. In many cases, those who don't achieve the material wealth that they have been promised are left feeling disillusioned and disheartened. Instead of finding comfort in their faith, they begin to question whether they have done something wrong or whether their beliefs are somehow inadequate. Worse still, they may blame themselves for not having enough faith, leading to feelings of guilt, inadequacy, and even spiritual burnout. The promise of wealth becomes a double-edged sword, where those who don't experience material success are left with an even deeper sense of failure, not just in terms of their financial situation, but in terms of their relationship with God. This creates a toxic cycle where the very individuals who are most in need of spiritual guidance and support are instead subjected to a system that exploits their hopes and dreams. The prosperity gospel not only distorts the true nature of faith but also manipulates the trust of vulnerable people, turning their belief into a commodity to be bought and sold. Churches and preachers who espouse this message often ask for large donations, promising that the more money people give, the more they will receive in return. This sets up an environment where believers are encouraged to part with their hard-earned money in the belief that they are making a worthy investment that will yield miraculous returns. At its core, the prosperity gospel raises important ethical questions. Is it right for religious leaders to exploit the faith of their followers in exchange for material gain? And does it truly reflect the teachings of Christianity, which emphasize humility, selflessness, and the pursuit of spiritual rather than material wealth? In many ways, it turns the message of Christianity on its head, presenting a gospel of wealth rather than one of compassion, sacrifice, and selflessness. Instead of teaching people to find contentment in their spiritual journey, it encourages them to chase after worldly success, often at the cost of their own well-being and mental health. For many, the prosperity gospel serves as a powerful reminder of the dangers of placing too much faith in promises of material wealth, especially when they are made by those who stand to gain from the desperation and hope of others. It forces us to ask ourselves, is the gospel of wealth truly aligned with the teachings of Christ, or is it merely a convenient way to exploit people's trust for personal gain? And perhaps more importantly, is this kind of theology truly helping individuals grow in their faith, or is it simply setting them up for disappointment and disillusionment when the promised rewards fail to materialize? Ultimately, the prosperity gospel raises complex questions about the intersection of faith, money, and human vulnerability. It forces us to reflect on the true nature of belief and the kind of relationship we want to have with God. Instead of treating faith as an investment, we must consider what it means to truly follow the teachings of Christ and embrace a path of spiritual growth and selflessness, regardless of the material outcomes. The prosperity gospel is not just a localized phenomenon, it has spread across continents, taking root in countries all around the world. From the bustling cities of the United States to the rural villages of Africa and Asia, this movement has found its way into the hearts and minds of millions. It is a belief system that resonates deeply with people from all walks of life, especially those living in poverty or facing economic hardship. The promise of financial prosperity, physical health, and personal success offers an enticing alternative to the struggles that many individuals face on a daily basis. For many, the allure of material wealth and the idea that faith can unlock divine blessings is irresistible, offering a glimmer of hope in the midst of uncertainty. However, the global expansion of the prosperity gospel raises critical questions about its true impact on communities around the world. For some, the teachings of this doctrine provide a much needed sense of hope and purpose. In regions where poverty is widespread and opportunities for advancement are limited, the promise of wealth through faith becomes a powerful draw. Many people, desperate to improve their lives, see the prosperity gospel as a way out of their circumstances. They are encouraged to believe that by giving generously to the church or minister, their financial troubles will be solved, and their prayers will be answered. This message of hope can be particularly powerful in societies where individuals may feel overlooked or marginalized, offering them a sense of agency and empowerment in a world where their opportunities are often limited. But for others, the prosperity gospel has proven to be a dangerous and empty promise. While the message is framed as a path to financial success and personal fulfillment, many followers find themselves disappointed when the material blessings they were promised fail to materialize. This disillusionment is particularly acute when individuals have invested not just their money but their faith in the belief that their success is directly tied to their level of belief. For some, this leads to feelings of guilt, self-blame, and spiritual crisis, as they wonder why their faith was not enough to secure the prosperity that was promised. In this way, the prosperity gospel can become a source of emotional and psychological harm, leaving followers feeling even more vulnerable than they were before. On a broader scale, the prosperity gospel has become a multi-billion-dollar global industry. Charismatic preachers and televangelists who promote this doctrine often enjoy immense wealth and influence, creating a stark contrast between the riches of the religious leaders and the struggles of their followers. The growing reach of the prosperity gospel has led to concerns about its ethical implications. In many cases, churches that promote this message are heavily commercialized, with large amounts of money flowing into the pockets of a few individuals while the majority of the congregation continues to live in poverty. This imbalance highlights the exploitative nature of the movement, where the poorest individuals are asked to contribute financially, often sacrificing what little they have in the hope of receiving miraculous returns. In regions like Africa and parts of Asia, where economic struggles are particularly harsh, the prosperity gospel has gained significant traction. The promise of financial success resonates with people who are grappling with unemployment, poor infrastructure, and a lack of basic resources. However, this promise often falls short when the hope for prosperity doesn't materialize. The result is a vicious cycle of disappointment and exploitation, as followers continue to invest in the belief that their fortunes will change if they just give more or pray harder. What is most troubling is how the prosperity gospel distorts the core message of Christianity. Instead of focusing on the teachings of humility, love, and sacrifice, it shifts the focus to material gain, creating a transactional relationship between believers and God. Faith becomes something to be traded for wealth, turning what is meant to be a deeply spiritual practice into a consumerist endeavor. This distortion can lead to a fundamental misunderstanding of the Christian message, where the pursuit of wealth takes precedence over personal growth, compassion, and service to others. As the prosperity gospel continues to spread worldwide, its influence grows, leaving behind a mixed legacy. For some, it remains a beacon of hope in times of need, offering a promise of a better life. For others, it is a dangerous and exploitative ideology that preys on vulnerable individuals, offering false hope and empty promises. The question remains, is this doctrine truly helping people, or is it simply using their faith to perpetuate an industry built on materialism and manipulation? As the global impact of the prosperity gospel continues to unfold, it forces us to consider the ethical implications of such teachings and their long-term effects on the lives of millions around the world. As we reach the end of our exploration into the prosperity gospel, we are left with one critical question that challenges the very foundation of this movement. Is the prosperity gospel truly the message of Christianity, or has it evolved into a version of faith that is more focused on what you can receive, rather than what you can give? This is not just a theological debate, it is a question that each individual must answer for themselves, as it touches on the core of our beliefs, values, and spiritual journeys. The prosperity gospel has captivated millions around the world, offering promises of wealth, success, and material prosperity in exchange for faith and financial contributions. But is this really the essence of Christianity, or has it shifted the focus away from the true teachings of Christ? For many, the prosperity gospel represents a distorted view of Christianity, one that reduces faith to a mere transaction. According to this doctrine, the more you believe and give, the more you will receive in return. Prosperity, wealth, and health become markers of divine favor, and those who don't experience these blessings may feel like their faith is lacking or insufficient. This transactional nature of the prosperity gospel turns religion into a business, with individuals encouraged to invest in their faith by donating money in exchange for the promise of material rewards. In this way, it departs from the traditional Christian message, which emphasizes selflessness, humility, and service to others. At the heart of the prosperity gospel is the idea that wealth is a sign of God's approval, a view that has raised concerns among theologians and religious scholars alike. The Bible speaks about wealth in complex terms, often warning against the dangers of materialism and the pursuit of riches at the expense of one's soul. The teachings of Jesus emphasize the importance of caring for the poor, embracing humility, and putting God's kingdom above earthly possessions. The prosperity gospel, however, seems to prioritize the pursuit of wealth as an essential part of faith. It frames the relationship between believers and God as a means to an end, where the end is often financial success, rather than spiritual growth or the deepening of one's relationship with God. This shift in focus has profound implications for how individuals perceive their faith. For some, the promise of prosperity offers a sense of hope, especially in times of hardship. The idea that faith can lead to tangible rewards such as financial freedom, health, and success can be an attractive proposition for those who feel trapped by poverty or illness. However, for others, this doctrine can lead to disappointment, disillusionment, and spiritual crisis. When the promised prosperity doesn't materialize, individuals may question their faith or even feel guilty for not being faithful enough. The cycle of giving and hoping for financial rewards can leave believers feeling empty and betrayed when their material desires go unfulfilled. This reality begs the question, is the true purpose of faith to accumulate wealth, or is there a deeper, more meaningful path that transcends the pursuit of material goods? The decision ultimately lies with each of us, as individuals, to reflect on the nature of our faith and what it truly means to follow the teachings of Christ. Is the pursuit of wealth and success an inherent part of being a Christian, or is there more to faith than just prosperity? Can we truly say that our faith is aligned with the message of Jesus if we prioritize material blessings over spiritual growth, compassion, and service to others? The prosperity gospel encourages believers to see their faith as an investment in their own personal gain, but is this the message that Christianity was meant to convey? Or has the gospel been reduced to a transactional arrangement, where God is seen as a means to an end rather than the end itself? For many, the true message of Christianity lies in understanding that faith is not about what we can gain from God, but about what we can give in return. It is about selflessness, humility, and the willingness to serve others, not about accumulating wealth and success. The teachings of Christ remind us that our true rewards are not found in material possessions but in the peace, love, and joy that come from living a life dedicated to serving others and honoring God. As we wrestle with these questions, we must ask ourselves whether the prosperity gospel truly reflects these values, or if it has taken us down a path that leads us away from the core principles of Christianity. In the end, the choice is yours. Is wealth truly a sign of divine favor, or is there more to faith than just prosperity? The prosperity gospel may offer a vision of success and abundance, but it also challenges us to reconsider what it means to follow Christ. As we navigate the complexities of modern faith, we must remain grounded in the teachings of love, sacrifice, and humility that have always been at the heart of Christianity. The true message of faith lies not in what we can gain, but in what we can give to others, to our communities, and to God.